Well, guys, it is now time for my Week 15 picks of the 2024 NFL season. As last week I went 10-3, which is a downgrade from last week, but hey, it's still pretty good. Apparently, I forgot to put the win percentage in, even though I remembered doing so. But hey, 70% correct so far. This is like on mark of being my best ever, unless I shit the bed the final 4 weeks. Oh man, that would make me sad. And of course, here's the regular season standings and the playoff standings at the season end of the day. In the AFC, it's the Chiefs with the bye, with Broncos at Bills, Chargers at Steelers, and Ravens at Texans. And the NFC, it's the Lions at the bye, with Commanders at Eagles, Packers at Seahawks, and Vikings at Buccaneers. And my Super Bowl prediction right now would be the Lions over the Bills, which I think has been like the last 3 weeks. Alright, so now it's time to get to my Week 15 picks, starting off with Thursday night, as it's a big one in the league too, and in the NFC as well, as it's the Rams at the 49ers, as the Rams won the last 2, the 49ers haven't beaten them since 2023, they haven't won at home against them since 2022, as the Rams, remember, won last year. So the Rams put up an incredible game as they beat the Bills with an offensive shootout. They needed that win badly to get over 500 for the first time this year. Meanwhile, the 49ers finally ended their losing streak as they destroyed the Bears. They really needed that too. Both teams really need this win badly, especially since they need to keep up with the Seahawks and such. Oh boy, this could be a tough one. Rams beat them early in the year, but the 49ers still statistically are the better team, and the Rams are like all over the place. One week they're like unbelievable, the other week they're crap. Kind of like the 49ers too to some extent as well. Oh boy, this is a tough one, but I think I'm going to pick the 49ers for this one, but I guess I can't be surprised if the Rams get it. Since they finally ended their curse last year, remember, where they couldn't beat the 49ers ever. And then we get to the 1 p.m. games, starting off with the Cowboys at the Panthers for the second year in a row. As the Cowboys won the last 2, the Panthers haven't beaten them since 2018. And of course, this is important for both teams. Cowboys, if they lose and the Commanders win, they'll be eliminated from the playoffs. The Panthers, if they lose or the Buccaneers win, they'll be eliminated. So this is pretty much lose and you're eliminated. So both teams really need to get this win. So of course the Cowboys lost a close one to the Bengals that they blew at the end with that blocked punt and then the botch pickup and all that. Oh my gosh. Meanwhile, the Panthers put up a hard-fought game and almost beat the Eagles, but couldn't get the job done in the end and such. So who do I trust more? Because neither teams I fully trust. But the way they've been playing lately, I think I actually might trust the Panthers in an upset potentially. They've been playing more competitively like the last several weeks, so maybe they could get the job done. I wouldn't be surprised too if the Cowboys get it. Alright, then it's the Chiefs at the Browns for the first time since 2018, as the Chiefs won the last 4. The Browns haven't beaten them since 2012. Hard to believe this game looked like it was going to be huge going in, but now it's irrelevant. So the Chiefs, of course, clinched the division after they beat the Chargers in a close game, defensive struggle last week. As the Browns, meanwhile, have been eliminated after they got spanked by the Steelers. And yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs for this one. Then it's the Dolphins at the Texans, a big AFC matchup for the first time since 2018. As the Texans won the last... No, the Dolphins won the last 2. The Texans haven't beaten them since 2018. And the Dolphins have never beaten the Texans in Houston yet, as the Texans try to get their second straight win season. So, for the Texans, if they win and the Colts lose, they will clinch a playoff spot in the AFC South for the second year in a row. So, a lot on the line from in this one. The Dolphins, meanwhile, hard-fought game, but they beat the the Jets, as they're trying to get back within 500 for the first time since, what, week 1? Or week 2, I mean to say. Meanwhile, the Texans were on their bye after they beat that's right, they beat the Jaguars, barely, because they had a big lead and they almost choked it away. But they held on to get the victory. Oh boy, another interesting game. But I just don't really have much faith in the Texans over the last 2 months of the year. They've not been playing that good. So I'm actually going to pick the Dolphins and maybe an upset potentially. Then it's the Jets at the Jaguars for the first time since 2019, as the Jaguars won the last one. The Texans haven't beaten them since 2021. And they haven't won in Jacksonville since 2012. As the Jets, of course, lost to the Dolphins. Hard-fought game and got eliminated. Meanwhile, the Jaguars actually beat the Titans in a defensive struggle to get another win of the year, ending their losing streak. I think they had 5 losses in a row. As nothing's going right for either team But of course, unlike the Jaguars, the Jets have some decent QB play out of Aaron Rodgers potentially still, so I'm going to pick the Jets for this one. But we know the Jets love to blow leads like they've done this year so far. And then a big NFC matchup, as it's the Commanders at the Saints for the first time since 2018. As the Saints won the last three, the Commanders haven't beaten them since 2015, and they haven't won in New Orleans since 2012. As the Commanders are trying to get their first win season since 2015, Saints trying to avoid their first losing season since 2022, and all that. So the Commanders, of course, off their bye after they destroyed the Titans, a high-scoring game I couldn't remember the Titans last week doing, as they're trying to keep up in the playoff spot and to keep ahead of the Eagles. And if they lose and the Eagles win, they're no longer eligible to win the NFC East. Saints, meanwhile, beat the Giants in an ugly defensive game, as they've gone 3-1 since they got rid of Dennis Allen, but they got a long way to go to recover because, man, it's going to be tough. And they got a tough competitor coming up when the Commanders, and I'm going to pick the Commanders for this one. And then it's the Ravens at the Giants for the first time since 2022. The Giants won the last one. The Ravens haven't beaten them since 2020. And they haven't won in East Rutherford since 1997. Their only win up there. As the Ravens are trying to get their, third straight win season. Ravens, if they lose and the Steelers win, they'll be eliminated from clinching. Actually, no, they'll still have the NFC South. AFC North potentially. They just won't be able to get the number one seed anymore. The Giants, of course, already been eliminated. The Ravens, off their bye after they got honestly throttled by the Eagles. Their offense took a big step back in terms of efficiency. Defense looked a little bit better though recently in that regard. Meanwhile, the Giants lost yada yada yada. I don't even remember. Oh, that's right, the Saints, because I just mentioned it. As they have one of the longest losing streaks in the league. They've lost 9 in a row now. Nothing's going right. I'm gonna pick the Ravens for this one. But hey, the Giants always play the Ravens tough when they host them, so anything could go. And then it's the Bengals at the Titans for the third year in a row. The Titans won the last one, and the Bengals haven't beaten them since 2022. The Bengals, if they lose and the Ravens, Chargers, and Broncos all win, they'll be eliminated from the playoffs. So they need to win out to have any sort of chance to get in. So they beat the Cowboys in a close game to keep their season alive. Meanwhile, the Titans lost to the Jaguars in an ugly performance that they should have won. And yeah, I'm picking the Bengals for this one. But then again, remember, the Titans destroyed them last year, so anything could go. Alright, then we get to the 4 p.m. games, and all of them are huge. Starting off with the Patriots at the Cardinals for the first time since 2022. Patriots won the last 3. The Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2012. And they haven't won at home against the Patriots since 1991. As the Cardinals are trying to keep up in the wild card round. The Patriots already been eliminated. As the Patriots came off their bye after they lost to the Colts 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, the Cardinals got honestly throttled by the Seahawks. Nothing went right for them, but they're still a better team than the Patriots, so I'm going to pick the Cardinals for this one. And then we get to the actual matchups, the big ones, starting off with the Colts at the Broncos for the first time since 2022. As the Colts won the last 2, the Broncos haven't beaten them since 2017. They haven't won at home against the Colts since 2016, as the Broncos are trying to get their first win season since 2016. The Colts, like I said earlier, if they lose and the Texans win, they can no longer get the AFC South. And if they lose to the Broncos here, they won't be eliminated, but man, it's going to be tough for them to get in. They really need to get this win here, as they beat the Patriots 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, the Broncos are on their bye after they beat the Browns in a high-scoring game 2 weeks ago, thanks to their defense getting those 3 interceptions. Really badly needed that win, and they're going to need a lot of help potentially. This would be huge if they get the victory here, but it won't be enough yet to clinch a playoff spot. But I'm going to pick the Broncos for this one, but the Colts would not surprise me. And then we get to the huge outer conference matchup with a potential Super Bowl matchup, as it's the Bills at the Lions for the first time since 2022. As the Bills won the last 4, the Lions haven't beaten them since 2006. As the Bills need a win here. Well, actually, no, they still have the number one chance for number 1 seed, even if they lose and the Chiefs win. But it's going to hurt if they lose. After they surprisingly lost to the Rams, I was not expecting that. As Josh Allen put up 6 touchdowns and they still lost. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, the Lions beat the Packers, swept them on Thursday night. Competitive game is they have the longest streak now. They've now won 11 in a row, and everything's going their way. And I'm going to pick the Lions for this one, but this will be a tough one. The Packers gave them a lot problems. Now they got to face probably the best team in the AFC. Oh boy, that's going to be tough. Maybe the Bills will get, but I'm going to pick the Lions. And then we get to another big matchup, as it's the Buccaneers at the Chargers for the first time since 2016. As the Buccaneers won the last three, the Chargers haven't beaten them since 2008. As the Chargers try to get their first win season since 2022. So the Buccaneers won their last game, which is not coming. Oh, that's right, the Panthers barely got that one. Honestly, Baker was more like midfield in that game, even getting Mike Evans back. They barely. Oh wait, no, it wasn't the Panthers. That was the Raiders. There we go. They spanked the Raiders. That's right. But again, midfield didn't really play that much good in that game either. I don't remember his stats. Hasn't been playing good, but hey, they've won 3 in a row now and are in charge of the division as long as the Falcons keep losing. Meanwhile, the Chargers hard-fought game, but they couldn't beat the Chiefs at the end, which cost them the division. But they're still in contention for a wild card, though. Unfortunately, Herbert got injured against the Chiefs. No idea if he's not going to play or not, because that could be the indicator of who would potentially get this, if Herbert plays or not. Because that's going to be tough, and this is kind of a tough game to look it up, but I'm going to pick the Chargers still to get this. Even potentially if Herbert doesn't play, but I think he would. So that's what Wikipedia or whatever won't load for me to look up his injuries or whatever. And then we get to the other big outer conference matchup, as it's the Steelers at the Eagles for the first time since 2022. As the Eagles won the last one, the Steelers haven't beaten them since 2020, and they haven't won in Philadelphia since 1965. The Steelers, if they win this, they'll clinch a playoff spot for the second year in a row. Eagles, if they win and the Commanders lose, they will clinch the NFC East for the first time since 2022. And of course, since the Buccaneers have a worse record, and by this point too, they would at least guarantee the third seed. So they really need it. And if the Seahawks lose, they would get the second seed confirmed at least. So big game. Steelers, of course, spanked the Browns last week to get the 10 wins. Meanwhile, the Eagles barely held off the Panthers. That was kind of concerning for them, as they needed that win, and they got it. But man, it was a close one. But I'm going to pick the Eagles for this one. But man, I want the Steelers to win so badly. I want them to destroy the Eagles by getting nothing but field goals, just to make Barry McCockner raging mad when he does a recap on Tuesday. I want to see him suffer when he shits on the Steelers. It'll be funny. I can only hope. And then we get to Sunday night, a huge NFC matchup, as it's the Packers at the Seahawks for the first time since 2018. As the Packers won the last one, the Seahawks haven't beaten them since 2018, and the Packers haven't won in Seattle since 2008. As the Seahawks try to get their third straight win season, the Packers, if they win and the Rams lose, they will be in the playoffs for the second year in a row and have a better record than last year. Meanwhile, the Seahawks, the Packers lost to the Lions in a close game, as Jordan Love once again did not play as good as he needed to. Meanwhile, the Seahawks spanked the Cardinals, and they've now won 4 in a row. 4 in a row they've won. And they're, so at the moment, kind of running away with the division, with the Rams being right behind them still. Although I'm still not really convinced that they're a good team still this year. Not very impressive. So I'm going to pick the Packers for this one. Alright, then we get to Monday night, as it's all of them are big still. As starting off with the Bears at the Vikings. As the Vikings won the last one, the Bears haven't beaten them since 2023, and the Vikings haven't won at home against them since 2022. As the Bears are trying to avoid the same record from last year. As the Bears, of course, got destroyed by the 49ers, no surprise. The Vikings, meanwhile, spanked the Falcons, as freaking Sam Darnold, continuing this unbelievable season, put up 5 touchdowns. And if the Vikings win, or the Rams lose, they will be in the playoffs for the first time since 2022. Just wild this season is. Complete opposite of what I thought the Vikings would be if you flipped their records. And yeah, I'm going to pick the Vikings for this one. And then we get to our final game, as it's the Falcons at the Raiders for the first time since 2016. As the Falcons won the last 5. The Raiders haven't beaten them since 2000. As the Falcons are trying to match their record from last year and get back to 500. As they've now lost 4 in a row after they got throttled by the Vikings. Meanwhile, the Raiders got spanked by the Buccaneers. They have the longest losing streak in the AFC, as they're making a run for that number 1 overall pick and all that. Oh boy, who do you trust more? Because the Falcons have now lost 4 in a row, and they're playing like crap. Cousins, there we go, has thrown no touchdowns, I think, to 6 interceptions these last 2 weeks. He is just not playing good. It's getting to the point where maybe we should give Michael Penix a go, potentially. But I guess I'll have to pick the Falcons for this one, because at least Cousins is better than anything that the Raiders have. But man, it's not a comfortable pick. Alright, so those are my picks for week 15. I cannot wait for Rams at 49ers tonight. So my my week's 15 predictions are the 49ers over the Rams, the Panthers over the Cowboys, the Chiefs over the Browns, the Dolphins over the Texans, the Jets over the Jaguars, the Commanders over the Saints, the Ravens over the Giants, the Bengals over the Titans, the Cardinals over the Patriots, the Broncos over the Colts, the Lions over the Bills, the Chargers over the Buccaneers, the Eagles over the Steelers, the Packers over the Seahawks, the Vikings over the Bears, and the Falcons over the Raiders. Alright, so see you all next week for my Week 16 picks.